Now let's turn our attention to something else. It's been about 4 months now since Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari presented the country's national budget to lawmakers in parliament. The Nigerian government at the time had said it was returning to the January to December budget cycle. But up till this very moment, the budget has not been approved by the parliament. Nigeria 2017 budget was never passed until about 6 months into the year, and it's now looking like the 2018 budget may suffer the same fate. I had a chat with Vice President Yemi Osinbajo earlier in the week and began by asking him what exactly is responsible for the delay in the passage of the budget.
And you're absolutely right. That was the agreement that we had with the National Assembly, that we will seek to return to the budget cycle beginning January and ending in December in order to enable everyone, private sector and everyone else, to plan. And so we submitted, the president, as you know, read the budget proposal sometime the end of October. And we had hoped that by January, which was really the expectation on the plan, that the budget would have been signed, returned to us and signed into law. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. I believe that the executive had done its part by ensuring that the budget proposals were presented to Senate, to the National Assembly, as we planned in October of 2017. But what you find, of course, as you probably know, is that the Senate and the National Assembly tend to spend a bit of time on scrutinizing the budget and all of that. And unfortunately, that seems to be dragging, seems to be taking a while.
What are you doing? I mean, the executive now, what are you doing to ensure that the legislature speeds work on the budget so that because Nigerians are actually waiting?
The best you can do, I mean, don't forget that this is almost entirely in the hands of the National Assembly now. The best we can do is to exhort and to meet whenever we're invited, whenever members of the executive are invited to, speak to the budget, make presentations and all of that. And also to engage with senior members of the National Assembly to try and see how we can resolve whatever log jams or whatever difficulties there are. So there is, a fair amount of effort going in that direction. But I suppose that one of the critical things is that we made the effort, and especially the executive, we made the effort of ensuring that we delivered the budget, the proposals in good time. But we haven't, I suppose, it's been a bit more difficult for the National Assembly to deliver on its own part of the deal.
Let's talk about the GDP figures released by the National Bureau of Statistics the other day. I mean, of course, you've had 3 consecutive sessions of growth now. But you dissect the figure further, it would appear that oil is still the engine room of this economy, despite the effort that your government is making now in terms of diversification of the economy. When exactly are we going to see when are we going to begin to see the non-oil sector now take center stage?
I think we're already beginning to see it, and as you can imagine, I mean, the easiest source of revenue today is oil. But oil is not a major contributor to GDP. But oil drives the non-oil sector also because it's a major source of revenue. But what you're seeing also from the GDP is that you're seeing a greater contribution of agriculture, much greater contribution. In fact, it is 0.82%. You see that agriculture is making a much more significant contribution. Mining is also making a much more significant contribution. Now, in relative terms, you will find that will grow as we push along with our policies on agriculture, our policies on mining and manufacturing and all that. And many of what we're trying to do is exactly to present that diversification. Look at agriculture. The agro-allied industry is something that's important to us. That's why we're encouraging the agro-allied industry as much as we can. We already are doing in rice, for example. We're already doing, in terms of just production of paddy rice, we're doing way in excess of what is required. What we now need is milling. So the value chain needs to be satisfied. And a lot of private sector support is coming in into milling. We're seeing Walcott, Olam, Dangote, several of the UMZA, several of the, the millers, the rice millers and all of that are investing far more now than ever before. So we expect to see more growth, as you see more jobs, right? Especially in the agro-allied thing. And that will begin to reflect more on the overall GDP. Same as retail, same as services. You can't divert an economy, in 2 years, especially an economy that has practically lived on a monoproduct such as oil. But I think that we're making the most significant effort in all of the years, that we've been talking about diversification of the economy. We're making the most significant effort, especially in the areas of agriculture, mining, and all of that. And look at what we're doing with manufacturing. This year, we have 80 billion in the budget for establishment of special economic zones. We see an opportunity in China, where China is becoming, China now is becoming it's becoming a higher wage. It's becoming a higher wage economy. A lot of workers in the Chinese economy, of course, are now asking for more money. So Chinese industry, of course, sees that there is a need to move to countries where the wage is lower. So we're getting a lot of interest from Chinese companies. In fact, there's a leading Chinese company that is investing in one of our special economic zones now, right? And they want to be involved in garment manufacturing in particular. Now, that is a major part of our economic policy, to have the so-called sunset industries from China, which is the factory of the world. We also want to be the factory of the world. We have, all of the factor endowments that make that possible. We have a youth population that we're trying to, that will be able to provide manpower for the jobs. Our geolocation is also very good. We're a few hours away from most of Europe, so we can export effectively. We want to take advantage of that, and we're doing it deliberately. We are doing this special economic zones in Lagos. We have 6 others in the six geopolitical zones and all that. And and these are concrete. These are concrete plans that are going on. So we will soon see the reflection of the non-oil industry in GDP. We'll soon see a greater reflection because of the plans that we're putting in place.
And despite all of this, poverty is still very rampant.
Yes.
Why?
Let me explain that. What you've found in Nigeria is a situation where huge resources of this country was not invested. A lot of it was stolen. A lot of it was wasted. And wasn't invested. It's a time when our country was selling oil at $100 to $115 a barrel. That's when we should have built infrastructure. That's when we should have built the rails. That's when we should have completed the second Niger bridge and invested heavily in infrastructures, in all of the things we're talking about now. But a lot of that was wasted. Now, today, our government is spending, and I'm repeating this, much more, despite a 60% downturn in revenue, 60% lower revenue. We're spending far more on capital than ever in the history of this country. As I said, 2017, we spent 1.3 trillion on infrastructure, despite 60% less earnings. Supported the state governments, even to pay salaries and all of that, with the sum of 1.91 trillion naira so far, including Paris Club refunds, etc. The reason why we have poverty is because our governments did not spend money where this money ought to have been spent, especially in infrastructure. That's what we're doing now. You can't redress in 2.5 years, 3 years, the kind of rot that had set in for decades. I think that what we're trying to do as a government, first of all, is to ensure that we spend public resources prudently, and that's why we're able to do far more with far less money. and that we invest in the future of our country. That's the only way to reduce poverty. One of the major reasons why our country is poor is corruption. And that's why we keep fighting it. Despite all of the fight back from corruption, we insist that we're going to ensure that grand corruption, especially the kind of impunity we've seen in the past, does not continue. It's a tough fight, but we're in it. And God helping us, our country will see a brighter future. Poverty will reduce as we begin to see the benefits of the investments that we're making in infrastructure and the social welfare of our people.
Well, let's just hope this budget impasse is resolved as quickly as possible. We do not want to have a repeat of the situation we had last year when it was actually 6 months into the year before we had a national budget. And with the way things are going, this is now March. Well, with the way things are going, we might have a repeat of the 2017 situation, but it's certainly not good at all for this country. It's not good for anyone. It's not good for investment. It's actually an embarrassment, and a huge embarrassment at that for the ruling APC, because, I mean, this is a party that has the majority of the members in parliament are members of the APC, so you would expect that the executive and the lawmakers would work harmoniously, but that has not been the case at all. So it's quite embarrassing we're having this. Let's just hope, national interest will prevail and that all sides will just come to some kind of agreement to get this budget passed so that, we'll be up and running. It's certainly not a good sign at all that we're having a repeat of this again in 2018. Well, that's it on the program. If you want to watch it again, it's simple. All you just need to do is go to our website, www.tv360nigeria.com. You'll find this program and lots more there. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/TV360 Nigeria. Do subscribe to get the latest videos and updates. You can join us on Google Plus as well. That's at TV360 Nigeria. Or like us on Facebook. The address is facebook.com/TV360 online. You can also follow us on Twitter. It's at TV360 Nigeria. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next week.